إن تدعوهم لا يسمعوا دعاءكم ولو سمعوا ما استجابوا لكم ويوم القيامة يكفرون بشرككم ولا ينبئك مثل خبير يا أيها الناس أنتم الفقراء يا أيها الناس أنتم الفقراء إلى الله والله هو الغني الحميد إن يشأ يذهبكم ويأتي بخلق جديد وما ذلك على الله بعزيز ولا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى وإن تدع مثقلة إلى حملها لا يحمل منه شيء ولو كان ذا قربى إنما تنذر الذين يخشون ربهم بالغيب وأقاموا الصلاة ومن تزكى فإنما يتزكى لنفسه وإلى الله المصير صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على رسول الله وآله الأطهار على رسول الله وآله الأطهار بر جمال رخ علی ابن ابی طالب امیر المؤمنین صلوات بفرستید. محمد و آل محمد. حدیث شریف کسا را میخونیم نیابت از همه رفتگان و نیابت از همه مؤمنین، کسایی که توسل دارند و خوشنودی دل امام زمانمون عجل الله فرجه الشریف. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قالت: سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت: دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: عليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بدني ضعفا. فقلت: أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال: يا فاطمة ائتني بالكساء اليماني فغطني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت: عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي: يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: عليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال: يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عم رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له عليك السلام: يا أخي ويا وصي ويا خليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء، ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء، فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأوأم بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال: اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. همه با هم: أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، واذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. صلوات خير محمد. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل: يا ربي أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فتأذن لي يا رسول الله. فقال رسول الله: وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لأبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي إذن والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال النبي ثانيا يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله همه ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي إذن والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. صلوات تشفون. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله وصحبه منتجبين، عن فاطمة سيدة النساء العالمين سلام الله عليها، فجعل الله طاعتنا نظاما للملة وإمامتنا أمانا للفرقة. There is no doubt that we are in a very tragic and painful time. But not everything about this occasion is sad and tragic. As a matter of fact, we are so pleased and grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has given us excellent role models who are not coming only from male genders, but also females. Right from the beginning, as we had Adam, we had Hawa. As we had Abraham, we had Sarah and Hajar. As we had Moses or Musa, we also had Asya and Safura. As we had Isa, we also had Maryam. As we had our Prophet Rasulullah, we had Khadijatul Kubra. And as we had Imam Ali Murtaza, we have Sayyidatul Nisa al-Alameen, Fatimatu Zahra, peace be upon them. And more than that, as we had Imam Hussein, we also had Zainab al-Kubra, peace be upon them. So our role models are coming from both genders. And one of them is Lady Fatima, whom we are going to talk about tonight. A lady who is the embodiment of Islam. If Islam is actualized, if it is an example as a human being, it is Fatima. As Rasulullah said that if goodness and beauties is exposed in a human format, it will be exposed, actualized as Lady Fatima. So her position is of utmost significance. And we need to focus more about her so we can enlighten our life, educate our mind, because she was an educator, a trainer, a guide, a leader, a role model, not only as a wife and daughter, but also as one of the greatest ladies of all times, and as a matter of fact, the most perfect lady of the all times, which we all know. It's not only Muslims who say so. There are so many Orientalists who have admired Lady Fatima so deeply that you think that maybe they reverted to Islam. There is a book called Lady Fatima from the perspective of the Orientalists. And three major Orientalists, all of them professors from Europe, have admired deeply Lady Fatima. One of them, Professor Louis Massignon, Professor Henri Corbin, and Professor Anne-Marie Chamel. As a matter of fact, Louis Massignon says that Fatima carries the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She is a very, very spiritual, mysterious lady with the positive connotation of the word when we say mysterious. She is mysterious because we are not able to completely and comprehensively know her. We can just partially know her because she is such a wonderful lady, but still we can know her as much as we are able. But the full understanding of Lady Fatima is something which is behind our comprehension. Louis Massignon even recommends to Henri Corbin, who came to Iran and lived there for about maybe 8-7 years, and he learned Persian and he studied about Islam and the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. And he was attending Ayatollah Tabatabayi's classes. And later he reverted to Islam. And Monsignor was asking Henry Corbin to study more about Lady Fatima because she resembles Lady Maryam. And he himself wrote a book about Lady Fatima, articles admiring her in a very deep way. By the same token, the other two persons, as I mentioned, not only these three persons, one of the very interesting poet, minister, scholar is a German by the name of Goethe. He also has admired significantly Lady Fatima. So much so that he says that in the history there have been four excellent ladies: Zulaykha, Maryam, Khadija, and Fatima, peace upon them. And he says Fatima was a role model as a wife. Fatima was a role model as a daughter. Fatima is a role model for all times. This is something which has been said by a great scholar from Germany about 2.5 centuries ago. Not only them, there is a book which has been written in Iran in Persian, and this book is collecting 1,000 scholars' comments about Lady Fatima. Imagine 1,000 scholars who have commented about Lady Fatima in a very deep and respectful and dignified manner. Allama Iqbal, one of the pioneers of Islamic philosophy, a very intellectual person, I read in one book that he is the most educated person in the last millennium, in 1,000 years. Of course, among our Ahl Sunnah brothers. The most educated person in the last 1,000 years. He knew 10 languages, and his poems in Persian are more pleasant than so many poets from Tajikistan, Afghanistan, and Iran. He says that if it was allowed to make sajda for someone, I would have made sajda for Lady Fatima. Imagine a philosopher, a mystic, a scholar, someone who studied in Europe, but he knew Fatima. And that's why when you read his poems, you smell the perfume of the Ahlul Bayt from his poems. So much so that at the later stage of his life, he said the Imamiyah are right. When there are sectarian discussions and debates, when there are differences among different sects and religions of Mazahib of Islam, he says the Shias or the Imamiyah are right. What they say, that is true. And he also said at the later stage of his life that Puche mazhab iqbal ka main bu turabi hum. You're asking my school of thought? I belong to Bu Turab, which is Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam. Anyway, he says that if it was allowed to make prostration, sajda, for a human being, I would have performed at the tomb of Lady Fatima. So we are here to commemorate a perfect human being who is a role model for men and women. But unfortunately, she is not understood properly as she should have been. Her life was very short, but it was full of dignities and values. You all know that if there was not Imam Ali alayhi salam, there was no one to be capable of marrying her. You might also know that if she was a man, she would have been chosen as a prophet. And once upon a time, Lady Fatima asked Rasulullah, do you love me more or do you love Ali more? Which one do you love more? And Rasulullah said, I love you more than Ali, and I love Ali more than you. Look at this answer, how elegant it is. In another word, the position of Lady Fatima is parallel to the position of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Even I have heard from some scholars that Lady Fatima is even superior than Imam Ali. That's not what I say, but even there are some comments in this manner that Fatima is even superior than Imam Ali alayhi salam. That's something which is above my understanding. Actually, I deeply glorify and admire both of them. On a personal level, I would prefer to say Imam Ali is even superior than Lady Fatima, but again, it's a matter of debate and discussion, and that's also something which is very important, that someone comes close or parallel or even above Imam Ali alayhi salam, who is the second best person in the history of mankind. Imagine. This shows how dignified the position of women in Islam is. As a matter of fact, even Ali Dashti was an atheist, rejecting Islam and confronting Islam, once said that the Prophet of Islam brought a revolution in relation to the rights of women. So what Islam and the Prophet of Islam made in regards to women's rights, someone who is critical of Islam, who doesn't accept Islam, but he says Islam made a revolution, a fundamental change for the benefit of ladies. Because there are so many rights. These rights are exposed, expressed, implemented by Lady Fatima. She was the one who chose her husband. She was the one who was a campaigner, supporting her father's cause, the mission of prophethood. She was the one who was teaching and preaching in the mosque and at home. She was the one who was challenging authorities, which I explained tonight. She was the one who trained, who brought their best children, not one or two, all of them. There is a belief, how can we revive the glorious civilization and authority of the Muslim world? It has been said that by establishing a family in which the father is Ali, the mother is Fatima, the son is Hussein, and the daughter is Zainab. So the significance of Lady Fatima is so great that would you like to make Muslims mighty and powerful and bring the previous civilization again in our age? Okay, have a lady like Fatima. It never means that completely bring a person like Fatima. No one can be like Fatima, but someone who follows her with some shortcomings and deficiencies, no problem. But she is the role model, and the other lady and the other men should follow these great men and women. And imagine, in this family circle, there are 2 men and 2 women. Again, our role models are not coming from one gender. It is combining of both genders. Unfortunately enough, Lady Fatima has not been understood properly in the Muslim world. So much so that someone like the Chief Justice of the Taliban wrote a book, and in that book, he says that in the history of Islam, a woman never took part in the selection of a leader. And if it was done, it would have been made, this selection would have been made by Lady Fatima, whereas we don't have any report that Fatima was taking part in the selection of the leader. But unfortunately, he doesn't know, or maybe he knows and he wants to overlook and turn his face to the other side. Lady Fatima not only played a major role in selecting a leader who was Imam Ali alayhi salam, not because he was his father cousin or her father cousin or her husband, because of Imam Ali's efficiency and qualifications, because of his high calibers, his high abilities and capacities. She selected Imam Ali as a leader. Not only that, she condemned the leader who was chosen by a group of men in Saqifa. But he doesn't know. Unfortunately enough, he doesn't know. Not only that, Lady Zainab was able to lead the movement in the absence of Imam Hussein. She was the spokeswoman for the movement, for the epic, for the revolution, for the movement, for the cause. Why there are so many differences in regards to the women's position in Iran and in Saudi Arabia, in Afghanistan, and so many other Muslim countries who say that we also want to implement Sharia. Please keep in mind that normally we say Islamic world. The Islamic world is not that Islamic, especially the governments. Even the masses, a lot of elites are not fully practicing Muslims. It needs lots of dedication, efforts, education to really practice according to the Islamic values. And we are not here to compare. We are here to show the difference and the superiority of the school of thought of Ahlul Bayt, who has got female role models like Fatima and Zainab, peace be upon them. And on the basis of that guidance and role models, look at Iran. The women enjoy the freedom of choosing the leader and the president. They have the right to vote. They have the right to participate in politics. They have the right to be the minister and ambassador, movie stars and directors, professors, you name it. You name it, a spokesperson for the foreign ministry. Whereas in the other countries who also say that we are Muslims and we want to implement Sharia, the women are isolated. And when, like King Muhammad Salman, when he wants to say no to Wahhabiyat, then he gives certain rights like driving rights for women. If you say that let's talk about women's rights to drive a vehicle in Iran, they will make fun of you. How come you talk about this? Because how do you know that a society and individual is backwarded society or individual? We know that by finding when they are talking in obvious things. When they talk about obvious things like, is a lady able to drive a vehicle? This is obvious that yes, she can. If we talk about these issues, it means we are backwarded. So about 20 years ago, or even less than that, the women didn't have the right to vote in Saudi Arabia. They didn't have the right to drive a vehicle. One of the reasons is because they are not familiar with Lady Zainab, who was leading a movement, was a spokeswoman for the epic. Lady Fatima, who not only chose and selected the leader, but also condemned the leader who was chosen in Saqifa. So much so, and it has been reported by Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Sayyuti, and so many other scholars and narrators that Lady Fatima was strongly opposing the authorities, the first caliph and the second one. So much so that once when they came to Fatima, peace be upon her, she didn't say alaykum salam to them. They said salam. But Lady Fatima didn't say wa alaykum salam. The other time they came and they waited for Lady Fatima to give them salam, she didn't give salam. She was challenging authorities. She was critical. She was powerful in the sense that she was fighting against authorities. So much so that one of the scholars of the Wahhabis say that it was because of the Fatima who made the first move against the authorities, and later other people also followed her. In other words, he is criticizing Lady Fatima, that she was the one who rose against the caliph. Not only that, in Israel, there is a lady by the name of Rachel Countess Feder, I think. She's a lecturer in Haifa University and in Jerusalem. And she has written papers in the Center of African and Middle Eastern Studies in Moshe Dayan Center. She's a Zionist lady. She translated the book of Ayatollah Shahid Baqir Sadr in Hebrew, and the book is a book about Lady Fatima, who is the critical of the authorities. And then this lady from Israel says that this book of Ayatollah Sadr, who is writing about the story of Lady Fatima, is inspiring the Iraqis to stand up against Saddam and to mobilize themselves. And not only that, this Zionist lady says that because of Dr. Shariati's book, Fatima is Fatima, this book also has played some roles in the Islamic Revolution in Iran. And when you talk about Fatima, in another word, people become dynamic. People are mobilized. People become brave, courageous. And then she says, and she said that about 30 years ago, she said, I feel concerns. I'm worried about this. I'm worried about the book of Ayatollah Baqir Sadr, which is talking about Lady Fatima, and the Iraqis are motivated against Saddam. The Iranians are motivated against the regime. And this kind of trend will continue, and it makes me worried. And as you know, in the Middle East, or in another word, the West Asia, it is the followers and the sympathizers of and supporters of Lady Fatima who are standing against Israel. And this Zionist lady predicted this about 30 years ago. So when we talk about Lady Fatima, we talk about a lady who stands for her right. A lady who stands for the right of those who are oppressed. A lady who is a campaigner. Lady Fatima supported Imam Ali alayhi salam, according to Dr. Rafi'i, one of the best speakers in Persian. And I recommend you to listen to his speech. Very nice speaker. Very good orator. He was our teacher, and I learned from him, and he said that Lady Fatima, peace be upon her, supported Imam Ali in 5 ways. First, with speech and words. She delivered the speeches in the mosques, in the outside home. She supported Imam Ali by campaigning, by political movement, going to the Sahaba homes and talking to them about what happened in regards to the leadership of Imam Ali and the confiscation of Fadak. And as we know, Fadak was there to be a financial support for the cause of Ahlul Bayt, so they can propagate and teach and preach. Because if you have money, you can impress people as a secondary factor. And everybody knows that Lady Fatima was a very immaterial, spiritual, moral person. And she was the one who offered her wedding garment, clothes to the needy. And it's very, very rare for a lady to give her wedding dress for someone who is in need of those dress. So she is a spiritual person, immaterial, moral, doesn't care about money, but it's a matter of proving that the authorities are wrong by the confiscation of the land which was inherited to Lady Fatima, but the Caliph didn't give it to her. So by speech and word, by political movements or campaign, like she went to Mahaz ibn Jabal home and talked to her, and Mahaz said that, does anybody else support you? The lady said, not as much as they should be. And when Ma'az, the Sahabi of Rasulullah, found that not enough people supported Fatima, he also declined to support Lady Fatima. And then the lady said, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to talk to you. And this Mahaz, unfortunately, had a very sad life. And please keep in mind, the biggest lies have been said by silence. Lies are not just said verbally. Sometimes people make silence and then it's a kind of lie. And it is the greatest and the gravest and the biggest lies in the history. Because when you know the truth, you should publicize it. You should tell it. You should support it. And one of the major reasons why the Ahlul Bayt suffered was because the elites and the common people didn't support them. Why? Unfortunately, that is all the times that the people, even the elites, are not wise and nice enough to stand for the right cause. This is even now in the world. And as Imam Ali alayhi salam says, that the fact that the people who are in the right direction are in minority shouldn't make you depressed or worried. As long as you're in the right path, don't worry. Continue, persist, resist. So Lady Fatima supported Imam Ali with words and speech, with campaigns, with boycott, because she boycotted the Sahaba, the two and some other Sahabas, indeed almost all of them, to not attend to her funeral by tears, because she was crying. And these cries were not from the position of weakness, from a position of strength. Imam Khomeini once said that they are making fun of us for the cries during Muharram. They don't know that with these tears we were able to overthrow a regime which was having 2005 years background. With these tears. In Persian we say کاری که اشک میکند آب بقا نمیکند. آب بقا, the water of perpetuality, which Hazrat Khizr drank and he was able to live long. So the poet says, what the tears does, the آب بقا, the water of continuation, doesn't do, because there is more purity, there is more dedication, and your heart is related direct to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's a support. The other support was with sacrificing her body for the cause of Imam Ali. If you say to some Muslims that Lady Fatima did not let the Caliph to attend to her funeral, they do not accept it. As a matter of fact, Imam Ali alayhi salam says, most of the things that the people reject, those things are the true incidents. So lots of the times when you tell to the people those, most of the things, those most of the things are rejected by the people. So the truth is with those most of the things, like this story. They don't accept it. As one person said that you're wrong, you're impolite, you're a bad person, you're nasty, I'm going to fight against you. He wrote under one of my speech in YouTube. And he said, how come you describe Fatima as a bad lady, as an impolite lady, that she didn't say salam to the Caliph, she didn't say alaikum, she turned her face. He doesn't know that. He doesn't know that. When the Caliph came, Lady Fatima turned her face towards the wall. And I saw in one of the interviews of President George Bush Sr. that an American lady in Washington, D.C. turned her back towards him in order to express her objection to the president, that I don't agree with what you say, I criticize you, I'm protesting against you. So this is even happening now. So with these 5 actions, Lady Fatima supported Imam Ali. In regards to the funeral boycott, not only Lady Fatima, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, who was one of the companions of Rasulullah, as-Sahaba, he said that Osman ibn Affan is not allowed to attend my funeral because Osman hit and verbally abused this Sahabi of Rasulullah because of some differences that Osman had with Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, because Osman appointed his family in Kufa and he was not the right person, and Abdullah ibn Mas'ud did not agree with some policies of Osman, as this third caliph exiled Abu Zar, and he brought back who was exiled by Rasulullah, Marwan ibn Hakam, and so many other mistakes and wrongdoings which are very sad. And in that book of the Chief Justice of the Taliban, the translator, who is from our Ahl Sunnah brothers, is very, very critical of Osman ibn Affan, very critical as a Sunni scholar. You will be impressed how open-minded he is. Anyway, this tradition of not letting someone to attend to the funeral of a great person is common in the history, and it's not unique with Lady Fatima. So Lady Fatima is a brave lady who is standing and not only selecting as a selector, a leader, which proves wrong those conservative Muslims who were so traditional and so narrow-minded, but she is critical of the current ruler and standing against her, against them, not saying salam, turning her face, saying, I'm not going to talk to you. I actually make complaint to the Prophet against you, and so on and so forth. So that's why we are so lucky that our role models are coming from these kinds of great ladies who are even inspiring us as a woman, as a lady, to stand for our right. In Australia, there is a lady by the name of Fatima Payman. Fatima Payman is also, as all of you know, critical of the Israeli atrocities in Palestine, and she has made a party by the name of Voice of Australia, and she looks a nice and wise lady. The fact that she has been able to say no shows her honesty, because most of the times people are a parcel in the system, a part in the whole system. But when you say no, when you're critical, it means you are courageous. It means you have a mission. It means you do not want to compromise your principles, and that's valuable. In English, there is a saying, my name, my fate. In another word, name puts impact on our perception and personality. So name is not something meaningless. So that's why we are recommended to put good names for our children. And the name affects our body. And Fatima is someone who is influenced by this name. The influence, the impact is morality, education, enlightenment, bravery, resistance, and so on and so forth. I would like to end my talk with this saying of Lady Fatima, who said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made our obedience the factor for the management and administration of the millat, of the religion, of the community. So because of our obedience, so the religion or the community will be organized, will be managed, and our leadership a protection from division, from separation. Unfortunately enough, when the Muslims turned their face away from the Ahlul Bayt, from Lady Fatima, from Imam Ali, there is division. There is lack of management and administration. Whereas if we hold on their leadership and obey their guidance, their advice, we are going to be organized. We are going to be protected. And these principles and policies are always there. And under the umbrella of Lady Fatima, we are able to be united, to be managed, and to be organized. As a Muslim, as a follower of Ahlul Bayt, as someone who is inspired and influenced by this wonderful great lady who is still relevant to our today's life. وآخر الدعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.